So hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Faculty Talks with UniVoyage. Today we have with us Professor Ajit Phadnis, an Associate Professor at IIM Indore. Ajit sir has completed his Bachelor's of Technology from IIT Bombay and his MBA and PhD from IIM Bangalore. Ajit sir specializes in public policy and has several accolades to his name, including publications in recognized documents. It is an absolute honor to have you here with us, sir, today.
Thank you, Rushil, and it's a pleasure being here.
So, sir, diving right into questions, what aspect of teaching intrigued you to take it up as a career option?
So, teaching is something that I've always kind of enjoyed, and of course, the best part about teaching is being amidst young people like you, right? So that's always something which is so energizing, and also if you look at teaching, it's teaching has multiplier effects, right? Because rather than you do something, and particularly in areas of social change, rather than you make a social change, why not inspire 100 others to make a social change?
Sure.
And teaching is that opportunity where you get to inspire people to make changes.
That's great, sir. So, sir, despite having so many options to your disposal, you chose to specialize in public policy.
Yeah.
So, is there any specific reason why?
Yeah, actually, So Rushil, the world is also changing a lot, right? And people are now looking at different aspirations, right? So when I was into college about 15 or 20 years back, right, what was my main aspiration at that time, right? It was about getting a good job, a decent salary, taking care of myself, taking care of my family, and so on. But world has moved on, right? So if I look at the youth today, right, their aspirations are much more different. Right? Of course, they do worry about taking care of themselves and their family, but they also want to make a larger change in society. They want to leave a legacy that they can be proud of, and so on. So when you're looking at different aspirations, what are the kinds of career opportunities which will align with those aspirations? And within that, the sphere of public policy becomes a very prominent thing. I want to talk a little bit about, when I say public policy, what do you mean by public policy? Right, because there's a lot of ambiguity with regard to the word, right? So public policy is primarily deals with the work of the government, right? And what does the government do, right? And of course, the government has whole lots of different responsibilities. People depend on the government for their water, for their electricity, and so many different, for their education, and so many different things, right? So it impacts on the daily lives of people. Right. For a long time, when we looked at careers where people can work with the government, right, it was primarily looked at that if you need to work with the government, that means you need to write the civil services examination and become an IAS officer. But as I said earlier, the world has changed. Right now, if you want to work with the government and if you want to make this larger change, it's not only the civil services that is one of the options, right? So there's so many different opportunities, right? When one can, work as a consultant for the government, right? One can work within companies as a public affairs officer within public companies. One can work and go and help MLAs and MPs in their legislative work. So the opportunities of working on public issues has expanded a lot, but people are still not yet aware of all these opportunities over there. And I think that it's people like me who have seen the space from inside who need to come up and tell people about this. Yeah.
So from your answer, we can infer how complex and multifaceted theme that public policy can get. And I believe that it requires some aspect of multidisciplinary education, which is lacking in the curriculum which is being prescribed in Indian colleges. So do you feel that this theme of multidisciplinary education is essential in the Indian curriculum? And if so, then why?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because public policy as a field is a very intellectually demanding field, right? It's intellectually demanding because specialization or knowledge of one field is often not enough, right, to make a good public policy official, right? So let's take an example, right? So if you want to kind of make a new technology policy, right, and it's not sufficient to know only about technology, right? But you also need to know, because the technology is embedded in society, so you need to know about society as well, right? And if you need to, ensure that the technology policy comes into place, right, you need to convince policy makers about it, and politicians are the main policy makers. So if you want to influence technology policy, you need to know how politics works as well, right? So to make a change in technology policy, you need to know technology, you need to know society, you need to know politics, right? It's effectively a multidisciplinary arena, and you need to combine and synergize the knowledge from these fields, right? So that's why I say a multidisciplinary education is a very essential part of being a public policy professional, particularly in the era in which we are in.
Definitely, sir. And the concept of jack of all trades is something which has been evolving over the past decade due to the emergence in technology, and cross-functional teams have also been on the rise. So this is something which I feel is also very important. So
Yeah.
do you believe that there is significant reason for us to move away from the traditional engineering and management degrees?
Right. So I want to say a little bit, because you said jack of all trades. That's not exactly what I implied when I said that. You have to be the master of one trade, right? You have to be a master of sociology, you have to be a master of technology, you have to be a master of economics and so on. But you just, in the current era, being a master in one field is not sufficient. You need to have knowledge of the other fields as well, right? So just while in the earlier era, right, you could be an engineer and know primarily only engineering, or you could be somebody in medicine and know only how medicine works, right? But in the current era, you can't pretty much afford that, right? Because even if you are a doctor, right, you need to know a little bit about patient psychology and things like that, right? So we are in that multidisciplinary era. So specialize in one field, but your horizon should not be limited to one field. It should be pretty much interdisciplinary.
Yes, sir. And that also makes us a lifelong learner.
Exactly, and that's the greatest part of a multidisciplinary education, right? So you're always there's always something to learn, right? And there's always something to learn. There's always new fields of knowledge, and so that also makes you humble, right?
Definitely.
So the moment you feel that I know about technology, somebody comes up and says, okay, but what do you know about politics? And you say, yeah, I need to know that as well, right? So that's a great part of this process. Yeah.
Definitely. So deviating away from the topic of discussion right now, I believe that IPM has also strived to follow a multidisciplinary approach, and it is one of the only institutes in the country which is offering this kind of curriculum. So do you believe that IPMers who study this curriculum would have a competitive edge over others, even though we are not offered a specialization per se?
Yeah, of course. So IPM in India is a pioneer in the field of interdisciplinary education, right? And we started it many years back, right? 2011, right, is when we started it, right? And people were just beginning to talk about interdisciplinary education at that time, right? And cut across to 2020, right? The theme of interdisciplinary education is a very intricate portion of the national education policy, right? So what people are thinking about now, the IPM program had thought about in 2011, right? So there is that degree of maturity that the program has acquired over the last decade or so, which is of course well demonstrated in the offering that we have over here, right? So obviously the key offering is interdisciplinary education, but it doesn't mean that people don't have the opportunity to specialize, right? You can in fact a key differentiator is that you have the option of what you want to specialize in, right? You don't have to sign in your very first year that this is what I'm going to do, right? You go through the entire buffet of options that are available to you, and by third year you have a whole lot of electives where you say, okay, this is the place that I want to be in, and so I'll choose more electives which will align me towards that. And then in your third year you also have opportunities for conducting research along with faculty, and you say, okay, this is what I want to research on, right? So people have done promising things, and particularly our IPM graduates, right? So in the third year, many people take up research, they publish, they present their research in various conferences, they go forward and even publish a paper, right? So one of the papers that I had done, that I had co-authored with an IPM graduate, was published in a very prominent journal, and that paper was also referred to in the Economic Survey of India document on a particular year, right? So we are in an era that age is a number, but expertise is what is reflected, right? And so people even at young age are able to reach great heights, so far as that they are ready to make the efforts that are required to reach that. Yeah.
That's great, sir. And the fact that the CIS part which you referred, the course of independent study, which enables a student to do research with a professor, and that is embedded into a curriculum, I believe that is something which is very critical, because it enables us to dive deep into the field of research and helps us develop some skills which we might not be able to develop while in the classroom. So
Sure.
that is an amazing initiative that is taken up by the institute.
And we gain in that process as well, because we are also looking forward to new ideas, and opportunities such as research projects are ways by which we can get new ideas as well. Yeah.
So sir, you've also taught a lot of IPM batches over the years. So what are some unique traits that you've observed in the IPM students and how they've evolved over the years? I think this could be the last question that we can address. And
Yeah. No. So obviously this is an important question, and of course, being a part of the program for so many years, I'm quite attached to it. And there are many IPM students that I see who are making very promising, gains in their careers, and it's nice to see them back. Yeah, just yesterday, there was an alumnus of an IPM who's published a very interesting article, right, on female healthcare, right, in a prominent outlet, in a prominent media outlet. And so we feel so proud to see that, where our IPM students are not only looking at making their own career progress, which is of course an important element of what we want, but are also looking to make contributions to larger changes in society and things like that, right? But so this ties into it that how are IPM students different, right, and students from other programs. If I can say that the students who get into MBA institutes through the conventional route of maybe an engineering or an MBA, right? I've noticed one thing is that IPM students are very purpose driven, right? And they are purpose driven. They get into program with that kind of an energy that they want to make a change, they want to make a difference, right? And so that's where when they come into the program, there's a certain direction and certain energy with which they come into the program, right? And we feel that our contribution is that the energy that is coming, the raw energy that is coming, we try to kind of channelize it into particular directions, so that there can be substantial contributions that go from there. So I think the energy that students bring in, as well as the guidance that they get here, right, together at the end of the 3 years of the undergraduate program, we get very, very interesting and passionate people who come out of this. Yeah, and then they move into the MBA cohort, right? And so they bring in a very, very different perspective to the discussions in the MBA classroom. And this, I hear it from a lot of faculty who teach in the MBA program, that some of the perspectives that I get from IPM students are different from the perspectives that I get from the conventional career paths, that is the medicine and the engineering.
And as a matter of fact, I can attest that the point about channelizing that you spoke about, that IPM IPM has helped a lot of students channelize their energy in the right directions and help them achieve the career paths that they would want to take up.
Thanks.
So, sir, any closing statements from your side?
Yeah, I just want to say that if one looks at the national education policy document that lays out a great vision for the future, right, of what education should look like in the future, and the integrated program in management is well aligned to the vision that is being put forward in the national education policy document, right? And so in some sense I would describe the IPM program as the education program of the 21st century, right? So I would say that for a long time, right, we have been closed with regard to the kinds of career options and the kinds of educational opportunities that we have, right? For example, in my generation, right, if one had to look at, okay, what should one do after 12th, right? The immediate thing that came to mind was maybe an engineering or a medicine degree, right? But now things have changed, right? There's so many opportunities and you don't want to remain closed, right? So I keep telling my students, and I keep also telling their parents, that get out of your comfort zones, right? Because if you keep getting stuck into your comfort zones, you are not going to realize the actual potential that you have. And the integrated program in management is one of the important programs which will help our youth achieve their true potential. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to communicate. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this inspiring words, sir. And again, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude for taking out time out of your busy schedule for us, sir. And I think that's about it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in, and follow UniVoyage for more.